I run our global efforts for Republic Project. We were recently acquired by Sizmek, as you may know, has gone through rebrand, part of MediaMind. So it was MediaMind, Unicast, iWonder, iBlaster, all rolled into one. Now the umbrella is called Sizmek. So traditionally an ad serving company and has a lot of great features for video, and now we actually added social to that robust offering. So I'm going to walk through a little bit about how you can craft different stories, things we should think about as we go through the process, and then how we should look at mobile first. So I remember I used to work at Yahoo for a couple of years back in the States, and it was really simple. Back in the day, in global, you'd buy a couple different portals, you got all the reach you needed, and life was easy. You had a 300 by 250, a 720 by 90. Maybe the biggest discussion back then was the retargeting pixel, right? Those days are no longer. We've got all these new guys to think about, plus more, right? None of these publishers have anything in common in terms of sizes for units, ad units. Everything's native, everything's different, and there's also a mobile-first approach. So we haven't forgotten about the endemic publishers that you have here locally, as well as globally, but it's not the same anymore, and agencies and advertisers and brands have to be much more conscious of how to tackle and tell a story through these new emerging platforms that we call social. Did you know that social has overtaken porn as the #1 item consumed on the internet? I know many of you are like shocked or saddened, I'm not sure which one. But if you think about that, you think about technology of how over the past couple decades, the porn industry actually has allowed for new emerging technologies to grow quicker. Think about CDNs, the cloud. Think about not ad serving, there's not many ads there, I'm not sure. But they've really pushed the needle forward. Think about social, that's what's happening now. Now that it's taken over that level of consumption, we can't forget about it. We can't make it secondary to how we actually do media campaigns. So it's really important that we put social in the forefront of things. I'm a personal believer that we don't even really need to use the word social. It's just part of how we do advertising today. I live in San Francisco, and I'm definitely one of these early adopter geeky guys that joined Facebook in 2004. And there's actually a way you can look up what number you're on in 2004, but let's just say I have no life, real life. I'm on my gadgets all day long, so it's unfortunate and sad. But this is nothing to gawk at. If you think about social in your markets here in APAC, it's really interesting to see that you may think your region is a little different than the rest of the world, and there's definitely a disparity just based on socioeconomic issues and development. But the averages for those countries that are actually spending money in advertising does hold true in terms of time spent. So if you look at this right here, hours per day on a social media site for Indonesia, 2.9 hours per day. Hong Kong, 2 hours per day. Singapore, 2.2. So you think about that, actually globally it's around 2.1 hours per day. So you're right there in the middle. So one thing at Sizmek we always think about is, we're a global company, but we want to be able to think local. So this is something to take into account just in terms of social media. So I want to set the stage for that. You're wondering, with all these hours and minutes being spent per day, on average, where are they spending their time? Even if you collectively take into account Google+, LinkedIn, Twitter, Spotify, et cetera, all that combined still has nothing in comparison to what Facebook does today. I know there's all these stories about, your mom and dad are on Facebook and it's not cool anymore, but that's really where people are spending a lot of time. It's because the content there is very engaging. And that content, a lot of it's being created by individuals, but more so, it's being discreetly created by advertisers, making it feel something that isn't like an advertisement, but indeed it is. So those things start to go viral, and you can actually help in that process. So Facebook is still around. They're not going anywhere, and they're doing a great job of growing because the content's engaging. And all the rest of the numbers will continue to grow. These are 2013 numbers. This is me 10 years ago, or a picture of someone that kind of looks like me 10 years ago. So I found this on the internet. I had to put it up there. I remember in 2003 or 4, we had the Sidekick 2s. Anybody have a Sidekick back in the day? Google bought them and became the Android team. But this was me 10 years ago, excited because you could do AIM on a phone. And what I was doing was literally engaging with the device and making sure that what I was doing, not knowing it at that point, was just looking at things, surfing the web, IMing, texting. But there wasn't much advertising in mobile back then. Now it's all over the place, but how do you do it across every device? That's where things change. How do you deploy it quickly? What tools and what resources do you have to expedite that process? And how do you make sure content delivers through? So I try to put a sidekick in there, but I'm just not really good at Photoshop. But that's what the main key here is, that we really need to make sure everything's mobile, and we want to make sure everything goes cross-device. This chart may be difficult to read, but you can highlight the red as the average in terms of mobile penetration on social. So about 24%. That means anybody who has a mobile device, 24% of them are actually accessing a mobile publisher via application or mobile web through that device. That's a huge amount of people. So when you do a mobile campaign, I think everything has to be a mobile-first approach. You know the shift happening into HTML5, days of Flash are still there, but you have to make sure you accompany that to make sure you're flexible. So another statistic to just show you the strength and value of being a mobile-first approach when you guys are trying to distribute content through social advertising. TV wasn't around for the TV broadcast days, but those are the days when you could send a crew to Burma and you can do a cool shoot for a month and you have a cool commercial, and then you could edit it, you can put it up, and you had a full month to kind of accommodate for that because things weren't moving as fast. Then we have the internet. So the internet came a week, right? Turn around a campaign for a week, your brand has a plan in place, the agency executes it within a week, the content is distributed, you've posted an ad, you take it down when it's done. Social, you don't have that flexibility anymore. Everything's being done in a matter of hours and minutes. So as a brand, and you heard earlier from the folks at KFC, Taco Bell, that when there's things trending, you got to take advantage of them. They've got an entire team that is working 24 hours a day in-house to accommodate for that response level. So when you as a brand or advertiser or an agency are working a campaign, you have to act quickly. So these are all things that have been going through to set the stage for just what you can do and what the messaging should be through creative. And you need to make sure you can do it at scale. So how quickly can you do this? How quickly can you push it out there? How quickly can a brand respond if there's a positive thing happening or a negative thing happening to communicate to the folks out there as consumers? So since we're in Singapore, and last time I was here, it was with my family, and we did the whole tourist thing. Now I'm here on business, and want to make sure we show the relevancy here. The most important thing I think here is the 18%. Not necessarily the most important thing, but an interesting thing about what I'm going to get to is 18% of the people accessing social are on mobile. So this is another data point for us to use, right? So we know that if you are local and you're on social, that message should be catered toward that moment and instant. So how do you deploy that quickly? We have the data to do that today through all your publisher partners and technology providers. So this is, I'm not a creative guy necessarily, but I feel that this is where the disconnect occurs a lot in our industry, is that there's an idea, but what's the ROI on it? Creative teams and media teams have different goals and P&Ls and things going through. So I like to think of these as my 3 C's, but there's really 4, because you can use consider if you don't need to use consider. But creative is a container for content. Just think of that for a second. Content today is anybody can create it. Sometimes we don't even know. I don't know if you guys watch Jimmy Kimmel clips out here, but a lot of times they have these spoof clips, right? You think about they're going across different concert events, or they had one of the Olympics with a wolf through the dorms of where the athletes were at, and it wasn't real. So we don't even know when brands, advertisers, publishers, or content creators are creating something genuine or not. But that was still content. But how is that distributed, right? YouTube's very powerful for video content. Images, Facebook is starting to increase the number of pictures hosted on there, and they also have a native video product. Twitter is doing a fantastic job of aligning their messaging with television so you can have content go through. These are all publishers that have some sort of container that is pushing it through. But it's very fragmented. As you saw in my first slide, it was easy back in the day. Now how do you accommodate for a unique post on Facebook that's a different size and shape? A promoted tweet on Twitter, Pinterest to pin board, Spotify with audio. So these are things that there are companies out there that can help you kind of bridge that gap. And how to do it quickly, I think you have to be an agnostic player towards all these publishers. Those are containers, by the way, if you see the back of that, just to let you guys know. It's very colorful. So here, and there's only 2 slides left. I wanted to keep it short and sweet, knowing I'd have the post-lunch crowd. But spamming, I'm going to say, honestly, I was that guy. I used to sell pop-unders and co-reg and all that good stuff back in the early days. And I apologize. I'm sorry. Even then I couldn't explain to my parents what I used to do, and still I can't explain to them what they do. But we used to spam the hell out of people. It was unfortunate. And we've gotten to a point where spamming is unacceptable. Content is coming to a point where you can pull it through live, you can change it, it's fully dynamic, that we can't spam people. And you want it to be the same across every device, every platform. So we're trying to get as close as we can to provide that for folks. But I was part of the problem before, and now I'm hopefully trying to help people have the technology behind to tell a story across different devices where social is the forefront of this. And to end, this slide contradicts everything I just talked about, basically. The co-founders of WhatsApp, this is what they've had up in their office for years. No ads, no games, no gimmicks. So if this is the direction that we see things happening internationally, if you think about the proliferation of WhatsApp because of the text messaging industry, APAC and EMEA and Latin America, and how well they've done and why they grew so quickly compared to back in the US is, there just was a need and it was filled and there were no ads to it. So if that's the direction we're moving, we here, everybody collectively in the room, need to be smarter about how we actually execute, because just as pop unders lost their way, eventually even these banner ads we're running and these native ads on social publishers are going to lose their way too. So I think what we need to do is come collectively together, figure out how to take content, how to contain it, how to distribute it across social publishers, so we get to a point where we all still have jobs, because this is the way the direction things are going, and consumers know when they see an ad. So if you make the content strong and you have some sort of technology and a way to track everything that goes through, which there's a lot of providers out there that can provide that cost effectively, I think that we'll reach a point where this thing doesn't hold true necessarily, and we also have jobs 10, 20 years down the road. So this is more of kind of just a storytelling enlightenment of just where we're at today and where we need to go tomorrow. And I know everybody here is in a leadership position where they can influence how things are happening. So feel free to communicate amongst yourself and come to our team, which you see, raise your hand if you work at Sizmek, and you can ping us about some things we're doing on a tactical level beyond all these things I spoke about here, but in addition to that. So thank you for your time. We have 7 minutes for questions. Yes. Right. Oh, follow me on Twitter. It's cool. That's my one plug. I don't tweet much, but when I do tweet, it's really interesting. Facebook also. I know Alvin, who runs our APAC. Alvin, where you at? Jordan, Alvin. Jordan's right there. Jordan, we became friends on Facebook. I was in Hong Kong earlier this week, and now he's like, "You're not coming back. You're having too much fun." And I had to like that post. So now we're actually friends at work. It's getting really awkward, but it's okay. That's why Twitter will be neutral. Any questions? To my right? To my left? Mobile? And just anybody? Bueller? No. Someone got that reference. Someone laughed over there. Okay, that's it. Have dessert. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. If you have any questions, we'll be here. Thank you.